Everyone, my name is Joris Peels, and this is another version of 3D Printing News Unpeeled, live with Joris Peels and 3dprint.com. And today, we're going to bring you the top 3D printing news. And the first news item is, well, it's a really interesting one. I think this is, I like this one a lot. This is Cloud Factory. This is an Estonian company that is got $2 million funding. And what they're trying to do is to develop a cost-effective, scalable 3D printing solution for influencers. So for micro brands, influencers, rappers, artists, anyone really, DJs, models, they want to offer them a jewelry brand, a 3D printed jewelry brand. So the idea is they work with famous people. They help the famous person design the jewelry they want, and that person gets kind of like a free kind of brand extension, kind of a way for them to make money off of their fame. They don't have to do anything except if they really want to get involved in the design, obviously. And then, if somebody orders it, it gets produced on demand. It gets 3D printed. This is a beautiful model. I love this as a model, right? This is a fantastic model because if you don't make enough, or if you don't only make one, then you're only out the cost of developing this item, right? So I really like this on-demand 3D printing in relation to kind of a very kind of fast fashion, very fungible, very fast-moving, very fickle audience kind of group. And I really like this. Imagine you're an influencer, you have like 10 million followers. Well, why not? It could be fun to develop your own jewelry brand. I can imagine that's a really fun thing to do and a really fun thing to maybe offer your people, especially if it's 3D printed. So I really like this very much. And I also like, if you look at the aesthetics of the brand so far and stuff, it's much more kind of urban and much more kind of like cutting edge than a lot of stuff. A lot of the jewelry that's been developed right now for 3D printing is very techy and kind of boring. And this kind of stuff is more, that's different. I think it could really be something more, more newer than what we've been seeing. The company also wants to use sustainable powdered metal, which is a good news. And another one of these examples of people trying to make like low carbon or more ethical materials. And what they have said, and I'm a bit more skeptical about this, is that they've said that they got started by a powdered metallurgy PhD, so they do have a lot of powdered metallurgy experience. But they say they've made some fundamental changes to metal printing, and that's not very broadly, in order to drive costs down and make it much more scalable. And they've also done the same to post-processing. And we all know that if we're looking at powder bed fusion, which they imply that they're using, that this does not have the cost structure for jewelry. This is not really anywhere close to where you'd want to be for these jewelry items. Also, it's probably a more expensive technology, but without having any kind of real virtues compared to, you could use binder jet, for example. You could use SLA with casting for this and end up with a much cheaper thing. And, it's not actually clear why powder bed fusion would then be the preferred option here, apart from it's more, it would have maybe a little bit more details in some case and allow a little bit more geometries. And then, to offset the cost in powder bed fusion, if they really want to make this like doable for the jewelry market and make these jewelry things cost effective, have big margin for themselves, and if they're using powder bed fusion, again, which we don't know apart from their pictures, which seem to indicate that they are, then there's a lot of other things they could be doing. But anyway, so I love the model here of trying to make it the metal printing technology scale and printing for the fickle market using these influencers as a channel. I really, really like that. And we'll see what happens, how far they get with this. The next thing that's also kind of a long shot, I guess, is this by Cosmo Care, which is a French company that kind of makes innovative cosmetics packaging and other kind of offerings to the cosmetics industry themselves. Has kind of postulated, kind of put up a kind of like a trial balloon kind of an idea, which is to have 3D printed applicators, right? The idea here is that they can get these applicators in really unique shapes, right, for really unique functions. They could make them much more quickly and cost effectively for a certain brand. And they could make these and change these maybe for certain applications. The idea they're thinking about now is lip care and contour care kind of applicators. And I think it's novel that they're using metal 3D printing for this. The cost structure here, again, for this kind of application, you could very definitely, I would very definitely use something like binder jet or like a hollow AM or met shape kind of technology where we're looking at slurry SLA to keep costs down. And especially this kind of size thing, if I understand correctly, this kind of size would be very, very size and shape, very doable with both binder jet and also with the kind of the slurry SLA processes. And we're, if we're looking at something like a hollow AM and stuff, you'd also get the costs pretty darn close. It would still be very, very expensive compared to other applicators, but very well there could be niches in the ideas here. And I think it's important to look at these when new applications are. When I woke up this morning, I had no idea that someone was going to try to do this, and I would have not, very easily come up with this. And I've been spending a lot of time looking at 3D printed metal nozzles lately and stuff like that, and still I hadn't come up with this one. So I think it's important for us to look at new applications, and we must realize that AirPro, which is a French service company, is currently 3D printing 1 million Chanel applicators a month. So 1 million powder bed fusion polymer, PA11, Arkema PA11 applicators every single month, which means that this year and also last year, one of the most 3D printed things in the entire world was applicators for just one brand and only one product they have with one service bureau partner. And that's already 1 million a month, one of the most 3D printed things in the world. So small things like that, or things that are a little bit outside of where are the things that we're thinking about, could have a really, really huge impact on our market. I'm not entirely sure this is very close, but something similar like this, something similar sized object from a higher value application could be very, very exciting. The next is trinckle. Trinckle is getting an investment, $3 million investment from the HZG Group. The HZG Group, HZG, I guess it would be, or something like that, is actually, you may not have heard of them, and they are actually it's the couple that founded Concept Laser and then later sold it to GE. And they are, they're building a giant research lab kind of thing in Lichtenfels, which is the Bavarian basket weaving capital, very small town area, really nice, by the way. And they are building that center there, and they're also doing an investment group. So it's a 3D printing specific investment group, and they are focusing on the DACH region. So it's like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, mainly probably German-speaking Switzerland, but just it depends on the company, or just entire Switzerland. So that's good news for people there. They're looking for investors. These guys are really experienced, and they really know what they're talking about. They have a long experience in industrializing 3D printing, especially for metal. So that's a great partner, I think, to have. And I think that for the industry, it's great to have. We've got AM Ventures, we've got 3D Ventures, we've got Asimov, and I've got another dedicated dedicated investor for 3D printing. And that's always good to have. Deep pockets, but coupled with industry-specific expertise, I think would be very exciting. Now, trinckle is a Berlin-based company, which has a kind of longer history in additive, and they've done all sorts of things. They've pivoted again and again. They used to have kind of like pricing software, I guess, for service bureaus. Then they went into more like workflow type of software. Then they went into kind of like error detection and stuff like this. And now they ended up doing configurators. Now, configurators were something that essentially only Twicket was doing for a very long time, and they still really lead the segment in making mass customization configurators. But trinckle also does this. What is nice about this is that in mass customization, we often think of like, stuff for like sunglasses and stuff for consumers, right? But it's much bigger than this. And I think the opportunity is much bigger than this. Like if we look at, a company is going to take a year and a half to get metal printing up and running internally to produce meaningful parts. Even with a service bureau, they're going to have to learn a lot of design things. They're going to have to free up resources to make the 3D printing designs work for their business. What trinckle can do, through a part maybe consultancy and part also maybe working with the client, is to develop a customization tool that can make it very easy for their customers or the customer's customers or internal people to mass customize and order these parts, right? So the things that, for example, trinckle is showcasing is things like induction coils, where you can customize an induction coil, or things that are like a gripper arm, for example, where you can just customize a gripper arm, or they have tooling for cars where somebody at Ford internally can just put up the dimensions of a tool that's going to be like a jig, for example, and then that gets printed. And we often see, for example, the adoption of fixtures is retarded in companies that don't have CAD people or don't have an available kind of CAD people or CAD people that have the time to do this kind of stuff. So this is to me something that can be a real accelerator to our market if these tools get deployed for internal things, right? Design tooling at Ford, or if they get deployed for things that you're doing in an industrial setting in a really B2B environment, or things that are happening to your customers that are also companies. That means that this market is much larger than just consumers. And what we're seeing in consumer mass customization is that for the consumer, the proposition, the sunglasses, the color of it, the way it looks is really very important, which could be great, but it could also be limiting. But if you could just design an automotive fixture very quickly, that's going to be something that has a real utility to the guy on the floor, and the guy is going to want to use this tool as long as it's useful and as long as it produces the right size and shaped fixture for him, of course. So I think this mass customization thing could be going a little bit differently than we think. I'm not saying that mass customization for consumers is not going to happen, but there's a whole gigantic market out there, and business to business and business to business to consumer, and these kind of markets that I think could be very exciting. So thank you so much for your time today, and hopefully you learned something, or you found this quite entertaining in some way. And